He's a professor and life coach known around the world. Give it up for Dr. Aaron Bryant.
Thank you for tuning in to another show of Dr. Bryant Speaks. Today, we're going to have an amazing show. Those of you who are new to the show, I want to say welcome, because this isn't going to be a show that's going to be, I can't say it's better than the previous shows, but we just keep it going from here. So welcome to the show. I hope you're downloading on all the podcast channels, iHeart, Spotify. I can go on and on. It seems like every week we're getting a new podcast channel that picks us up. So that's amazing. On the YouTube channel, we're breaking records. We're getting views within 24 hours. We're exceeding 100 per day. This is pretty amazing. So continue to watch, continue to download, continue to be a part of the Dr. Bryant community. This is something that I'm doing for all of our military veterans and families. I want to emphasize that. On some of your comments, some of your questions, people are asking, why do I emphasize that? From a personal perspective, families are sacrificing. It's not just the veterans themselves. Families are being left in the rear. You have dependents who are confused and missing mom and dad. They return home and there's still a struggle that happens. You have the reacclimation, you have the adapting, you have so many different challenges. And sometimes you don't even realize what's happening. And that is something that I feel is very important and we have to address. So we're going to continue to bring programs. We're going to continue to bring organizations. We're going to continue to bring experts who have the insight, have the personal experience, and also will have a lot of the resources available. Again, not just for the veterans, but for our families and friends. So on that note, I want to introduce retired Master Sergeant Eduardo, we call him Eddie Ramirez, the founder of One Vet, One Voice. Eddie, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
All right, so we're going to jump right into this. And Eddie, I want you to take the floor. Tell us about yourself and specifically tell us about your military background, because we want them to know you've been there and done that. So give us a little background on who you are and where you've been.
All right. Well, my name is Eduardo Eddie Ramirez. I'm originally from San Francisco, California. I went to Mission High School back in the day, and then went to San Francisco State, and then San Jose State, studying electrical engineering, and worked at NASA Ames Research Center.
Oh, yeah, I know where that is.
Yeah, studying electrical engineering. I was in a program called Cooperative Education, where you go to school a semester, and then you work a semester in the career that you want to obtain. So I lived down in San Jose, little studio apartment, working, riding my bicycle from San Jose to NASA, taking physics and chemistry and calculus. And
okay, I have to ask, Eddie, were you like the only Latino doing that, or was there a program specifically for the minorities, or what? Because you sound like you're breaking ground back in that time of day.
Back in the day. You know, I actually went to school with a couple of Puerto Ricans from Puerto Rico that had come up from Puerto Rico, and one of them was living with me. So it was a unique program. Yeah. There were some Latinos in the program in the engineering school, but there was not a Latino specific program. You know, so you're kind of mixed in with everybody else. But the program that was unique was the cooperative education program.
Okay.
Because that one got you to go to school and to get experience in engineering. And that was unique. I don't even know if they have that program around again.
You know what? I seriously doubt it. There's so many programs that I've heard about, even some that I've been in, like one specifically for me was called Upward Bound when I was down in Southern California. Okay, so but these
Upward Bound programs.
These things are no longer around. People can't find funding. When you have these budget cuts, they look at that kind of stuff and they just cut it. Fine arts, music, all of that. So unfortunately, if it's still around, I would love to hear about it, but I'm not hearing. So, but go ahead.
For sure. But the Upward Bound program, I was involved with that, where I was going to school at the university during the summer.
That's right.
It was a really good program. That actually, Upward Bound program actually got me to graduate from high school. I was one of those students that I was struggling, you know, but I did it. I graduated on time and I got into a university. So, I mean, you know, that was pretty heavy duty, you know. Anyway, working at NASA, and then I got burned out. And I joined the Air Force. And I always was into mechanics and stuff, you know, working on my cars. I have a 67 Camaro that was given to me when I was like 16 years old. Matter of fact, I still have that car.
Whoa.
It's sitting in my garage right now.
Nice.
Anyway, that's a whole other. That's a whole other.
I think we're gonna have to talk offline about me stopping by.
You know.
Nice.
And then they sent me to Lackland Air Force Base and basic training there. And then I had a 6 months delay because I was a guaranteed job. So I was an aerospace ground equipment mechanic. I went to Chanute Air Force Base in Illinois, and they had the coldest winter in history out there. Wind chill factors of minus 120 degrees.
Whoa.
I never heard of wind chill factors until I got there. They had to close down the school several times because it was just too cold to go outside.
How much feet of snow?
Oh man, it was crazy.
How high was the snow?
The snow was pretty high. You know, it came up to like the first story. You had to kind of dig your way out, you know. But I did 16 weeks of training there to work on support equipment for aircraft, generators, air conditioning, air compressors, diesel engines, you know, so on and so forth. So that when the aircraft comes and lands, you don't want to run the aircraft engines. So you bring out support equipment and you plug it into the aircraft. So my job was to maintain all that support equipment. And that took me to Japan and to Tampa, Florida. And then I said to myself, you know, I need to get another job because I was a grease monkey. I was working from 8 to 8 and my hands were always dirty. I was like, oh man, this is too much. And then I cross-trained into ground radio communications, where I maintained the air traffic control system and worked on UHF, VHF, HF communication satellites and doing all that. And that took me to Travis Air Force Base. It took me to Hesse-Jollendorf, Germany. It took me to Saragossa, Spain. It took me to Rimini, Italy. And it took me to McClellan in Sacramento.
So hold on, I wanna, for those kids out there listening and intrigued by this, you hear all these countries he's talking about. This is one of the best things about being in the military. You have an opportunity to see the world. And so I just want to make a footnote that, you know, we sometimes talk about the bad about being in the military and how we're taken from our families and, you know, the challenges that we experience. But this is a great point to acknowledge how sometimes you get a chance to get out there and you get to see countries you didn't even know existed.
Right. And that's the issue that a lot of people that are in the military face. They don't realize the opportunities that come across to them in the military. You know, I mentioned that I was in Japan. I was an aids mechanic, then I cross-trained. The Air Force has what's called the Community College of the Air Force. So as you go through these technical training schools, you're getting college credit. And I ended up getting 3 associate's degrees from the Community College of the Air Force. And then I got my bachelor's degree, and then I got my master's degree, all while I was active duty.
And this is based on you just training in your own field? Or was
Training
this
in
what
my
you
own
were doing?
field.
Go ahead. So I'm just asking, training in your field that gave you the degrees, or was it things you were doing above and beyond your training?
Well, like I said, the training schools are accredited universities. Mm-hmm. So you get that college credit. All you have to do is take a couple additional classes to meet the general requirements, and that gets you that AA.
Wow.
But a lot of people don't take advantage of that, you know? So I ended up getting 3 of those from the Community College of the Air Force. When I was at McClellan, you know, McClellan closed down.
Right. I used to live in Sacramento.
Yeah. So I closed down 4 bases in a row. The one in Germany, the one in Spain, the one in Italy, and McClellan. And by the time I got to McClellan, I cross-trained again, where I was an ALS instructor, or a professional military education instructor. And I ran a university for the Air Force.
Oh, impressive.
That taught leadership, the profession of arms, and communication skills to the up and coming supervisors of the Air Force. In order for them to put on the rank, they had to complete my school.
Nice.
So I had 12 students for 28 days, and we taught 60 different lessons, everything from basic grammar to situational leadership. And
Wow.
the curriculum was an accredited curriculum from the Southern Associations of Schools and Colleges. And that curriculum was taught worldwide to all the different ALSs for the Air Force.
So other than you being bad luck, because every time you went to a base, you shut it down. You actually was providing a lot of opportunity, and you made a lot of connections. I mean, that's pretty good. You having the students in your class are future leaders. It's like, okay, I got a buddy here, I got a buddy here. I mean, man, I'm surprised you didn't just go all the way up into the officer status.
Well, when I was at McClellan, I was going to retire from McClellan, and then they said, "Oh, you're going to get promoted. You're going to get promoted to E7."
Yeah, that's one way to keep somebody in.
Yeah. But you owe us 2 years.
Yeah.
If you're going to get promoted, you owe us 2 years.
Of course, of course.
And these are your options. You could go to Georgia, or you could go to Edwards Air Force Base, Mojave Desert.
Yeah, that's right.
In California. So I said, give me the Mojave Desert. Give me Edwards Air Force Base.
Really? You chose that over Georgia. Now, Georgia's humid and all that, but Georgia's got Georgia peaches. You got the southern women. I mean,
I know that.
That's why you didn't go.
No. After moving 14 times in 22 years, I said, I need to stay near home because I left my family in Sacramento.
Right.
And I went down to Edwards, and I ended up living in a single wide trailer with a swamp cooler in the middle of the Mojave Desert.
Yeah.
And then, I was running the base communication shop that had like 4 different organizations in it. And evaluations came out, and, I did good, but I replaced another master sergeant. And then, because he went to Australia, but for some reason, he came back. So now we had 2 master sergeants in the position.
I would have replaced him in Australia.
I wanted to, but they wouldn't allow that.
Yeah, okay.
So he outranked me, so he ended up taking over the shops. And I was like, okay, now what? So they had me do a training manual. They had me stand up this deployment shop. And I said, I think it's time to go. So I ended up retiring as a master sergeant from Edwards Air Force Base in 2003. And I took a couple of years off just to demilitarize. And that was a mistake. Because after having a level of responsibility up here and you're ramped up, to go from that to just nothing and going back home to the environment that you wanted to get away from in San Francisco with your buddies and all that, I ended up, spiraling out of control. Drugs, alcohol, and it got to the point where I went to jail a couple times, and it was just not a good thing.
Yeah.
And then I said, I need to go back to work. And I tried to apply for jobs and nothing. I couldn't get a job.
So we're talking 2003, correct?
That was 2003,
okay.
2004, 2005, because I retired in 2003 and I just kind of didn't do much and got in trouble. And, 2005 came around.
So just to give the audience some perspective, especially those who may not have full visibility of the not just the military, but civilian world supporting the military, that timeline of where we are is not as it is today. Veteran affairs and existence was there, obviously, but they didn't have all the resources that they have now. The relevant programs that we're seeing that's all over the place wasn't in existence. We sure as hell did not have the ability to go into VA and have all of these different doctors and, you know, psychiatrists. So for somebody like Eddie and myself, because I was along those same timelines, you weren't even aware of what you were struggling with. And that's the key that I want to kind of bring out to in the open for people to understand, because I'm sure they're listening to you, Eddie, and they're going, man, that's weird. He gets out of the military, he's a squared away master sergeant, and then suddenly he's having problems. That doesn't make sense. They're not going to comprehend that. But when you don't even realize that transition, that acclimation into civilian society, the way it impacts the brain, you cannot even understand unless you were a veteran and having to step off that plane. You're now in a world that you are not familiar with, and to be able to adapt. Like, we're talking immediate adaptation, because literally there's no time, there's no pause. Let me give you a chance to understand. It doesn't happen that way. So I want people to understand and really, really process that this is not easy, because you're talking about going from a structured world in the military to an unstructured environment. And that is a very, very difficult thing to adapt to. So Eddie, from me to you, I understand, I sympathize, and I really want the audience to grasp this, the importance and the reality of what you went through. So there's no, I know for me personally to you, I'm not holding anything against you, because I recognize and realize, and we all have those tribulations that we have to deal with. So kudos to you for, obviously there's a happy ending, so we're going to get to that, but continue on talking about what I want to kind of address is how you ended up going into the Minority Veteran Program Coordinator. You ended up getting into that role. So give us some insight on how that came to be.